Now, mate, we're ready to move on to something new. Now I want to do what we call the human curry comb, or another way of using it is called the Jeffries method. There was a guy in Australia called KB Jeffries, and he came up with a way of starting colts which was very unique to really how it had traditionally been done in Australia and actually anywhere in the world. And it's about getting on a horse and crawling basically all over it before you saddle them and getting them used to the human being and touching them. And I've been using it for many, many years now. And I find that it really gets one gentle and quiet in a hurry, okay? Now, the only question is, when do you start doing that with your horse, okay? For example, I don't recommend you do the Jeffries method, human curry comb, until you've got pretty decent control of your horse's feet. You know, you can do, basically, until you can do everything we've done with him up to this point, I probably wouldn't recommend it, okay? Because a lot of people will say, well, Clinton, you know, what happens if the horse tries to bite you when you're getting on, or, you know, any of those type of things. If you've got your horse's feet moving forwards, backwards, left and right, none of that really should be happening to you, okay? Now, if your horse is a lot quieter and he's a lot more respectful, you can start it very quickly, okay? I'm leaving it till now with Ransom so that I could get control of his feet. I could get him moving forwards, backwards, left and right. You know, he was using the thinking side of his brain, and I always do it before I saddle the horse, okay? I always do this before I saddle him. So they're the next two steps that I want to work on with this particular horse. Now, I know when I'm doing this, it looks, to be honest, a lot more dangerous than what it is. It does look dangerous when you first see it, but when I actually talk my way through it and show you what's going on, it's actually not very dangerous at all. You are not riding the horse. All you're doing is laying on the horse or laying across the horse, okay? And I'll kind of explain that as we go along here, okay? So, first step first, walk up and rub him. Now again, this is something really good to do even with a domesticated horse. You've got a jumpy thoroughbred or an Arab or quarter horse that's very jumpy and reactive. Let's say he's 7-year-old. This is a great exercise to get horses to be quiet and relaxed when you're around them. So it's not just good for colts, it's good for any age horse. In fact, you can even do it with a yearling. Like a big yearling, say 20-month-old yearling that's got a bit of size about him. It's great to do to yearlings as well, okay? So, first thing I'm going to do is get in here, and we've already done a lot of rubbing on him here, so this is not that new to him. Flex him here, there we go. First thing I'm going to do is just get my elbows here and just kind of lean on him just a little bit here. Just kind of get him used to some weight on him. He's never had anything on his back. Now right there, even how he just took a step and kind of walked off right there, see how I jerked him to the side and kind of pulled him off balance. That's what I'm going to do. Anytime he walks off or moves, and I didn't ask him to, now I'm just slowly going to take my legs away and put more and more weight over his back and withers. There we go. Then retreat. And I just take my legs away here. Yeah. He's got to learn to balance himself with me on him. Good boy. Okay. There we go. Now I'm going to start jumping up and down beside him. Very important to keep your belly button rubbing the horse. You don't want to jump out here like this, because then when you actually start to get on the horse, you're going to surprise him and touch him. Always have, it's what I tell my apprentices, get a dirty shirt. If you don't have a dirty shirt when you get done doing this exercise, you were doing it wrong, okay? So have that belly button really rubbing on him. Jump, because I've got to be able to get on him, and he's got to be used to this jumping sensation. Now in the beginning, I stay up here kind of beside their shoulder a little bit initially, in case they try to kick at you or do something silly, okay? So stay out of that reach of that back foot just initially. Okay, jump. Now I'm gonna jump over him a little bit more, like that, and then retreat. Jump, a little bit further, and just kind of rub him here. Now, I already know everybody's thinking it, not everybody, but some people are saying, what happens if you're vertically challenged and you're short and you can't get on? Get a bucket, get a mounting block, get a bale of hay, use your imagination and step on something, okay? It's not the end of the world to get a bucket and turn it upside down. Get his nose over here. Now I'm going to start moving my legs back and forth like I've been drinking all day. There we go. And just let him get used to those legs moving back and forth. Just like that. Good boy. Now at any point he would go to walk off. It's really good that he's standing here, but some of them will try to walk off or get a little scared. Let's just say he went to walk off. Step to the side and pull him off balance. Step to the side, pull him off balance. And then immediately go back in and do what you were doing. So when I have a horse that doesn't like what I'm doing, I'll always try to make something else look more difficult. So it's like, hey, option A, stand here, relax, let me jump all over you. Or if you want to move your feet, that's okay with me, but I'm going to pull you off balance, okay? And then I'm going to immediately go back and jump on you again. So that looks like the better option. Jump. Okay. Now I'm just going to climb on him. Now you notice that my knees are together here. Very, very important to keep your knees together. I am not riding the horse. All I'm doing is rubbing the horse and I'm laying on him. And if at any point he moved or jumped forward, this is what I would do. Slide off. And because my knees are together, you'll land on your feet. If you don't land on your feet, don't worry, you'll get better with practice, okay? So just keep your knees together. I can't stress the importance of that enough. There we go. So rub, rub, rub. Don't get up here and do this, oh, what do I do now, and be scared. You gotta rub them. The whole secret of this is you're like a human curry comb. The more you rub them, the better. Lots of around their girth here, where you're gonna put the saddle in the girth here, girth area, okay? That's it. Rub, rub, rub. And then slide off and retreat. If you've already taught him how to flex, doesn't hurt to throw in a couple of flexes here either. Good boy. So, believe it or not, you'd be amazed how most of them will stand still very quickly. Usually the worst thing that happens when you do this is they will jump forward or jump to the side. Very rarely, if ever, I've never actually had one actually buck, okay? Because for a horse to buck like a rodeo bucking where all 4 feet are off the ground and they're bucking wild, okay? It's because they've got something around their belly, a girth, a flank, a back cinch, they've got something around their belly. There's nothing around this horse's belly, I'm just laying on his weather shield, remember? Least sensitive part of a horse's body is from the halter to the top of the tail. So worst case scenario, usually what will happen is they'll just kind of scoot sideways or jump. Well, if your knees are together, you'll land on your feet. If you separate, the reason why it's important not to separate your legs is because if you separate your legs, now you're riding the horse. So if a horse would jump, see how he's kind of leaning into me here? Driving away. If your legs are around the horse's belly and he would jump, you're probably going to grab with your legs, because human beings, we go into that fetal position whenever we get scared. We grab with our hands and we grab with our legs like this. Well, that's going to make him feel trapped and claustrophobic. So that's why it's extremely important, okay, to make sure that you don't separate your knees. Get your rope out behind you. Jump, jump, jump. Okay. Rub him. Now from this point, I'm slowly going to start pushing my way a little further back on him until eventually I can slide off the back of him. Now I'm going to try to bend his head a little bit, slide my hand down his butt here a little bit. I'm warning him that's eventually where I'm going. Okay? I'm eventually going to slide off the back of you. Now, if at any point he would jump or do something silly, I slide off and I pull 2 eyes towards me like that. Okay. That's the boy. That's it. Slowly start working my way back. That's it. See, he's got to get used to seeing me. See how he's looking at me right now and out of his right eye? This is the first time he's seen me out of both eyes separately. As far as now, he's looking at me out of his left eye, and then when he turns his head to the right, he's looking at me out of his right eye. Slide off the side, run my hand down his butt here, staying close. Close is better, because let's just say he would go to kick at me. The closer I am, he's just going to push me out of the road. If I'm standing back here and he'd kick, I'm going to get on the end of that hoof and get one in the ribs, okay? So it's very, very important to stay close to him. That's a boy. And I usually just keep the rope over my hand like this. Okay. Start sliding back. Lots of rubbing now. Rub, rub, rub. Okay. Slide a little bit further off the back. He's a little bit looking here, so just keep rubbing him. Keep rubbing him here. You see how he's moving? If he moves, I just keep rubbing him here. Keep rubbing him. It doesn't hurt to keep their head bent a little bit towards you. So he's a little bit worried about me rubbing him back here, so stay in close. Keep rubbing him. Keep rubbing him. Keep rubbing him. I'm going to wait till he stops moving his feet and he relaxes. Nearly. That's it. There we go. See how the rope kind of got wrapped around his legs a little bit there? You notice he didn't react to it? That's because we've done a lot of homework, done a lot of desensitizing around his legs, haven't we? We've rubbed him all over. We've thrown the rope at him, stick and string. Okay, if we wouldn't have done that, he would have reacted to that. That's it. Slide off. Stay nice and close now. He's thought about moving here a little bit. Staying close. There we go. And I just keep repeating it. That's it. So, if I can get him comfortable with this, the saddle shouldn't be that hard. Okay. Now that's the first time I've slid off the back of him. Okay, good boy. Stay in close here. Every once in a while I might throw in a bit of a flex here. Can't flex too much. Good boy. And then we'll go to the other side. Jump, jump, jump. If he moves around a little bit, I just try to stay on, but if I end up slipping off, not the end of the world. That's a boy. Stay here. I've got the rope short enough that if I needed to pull, I could pull him off balance like that and pull him towards me and get two eyes if I needed to. Little resistance here. Little resistance. Hold that pressure. There he softened up. There he softened up. Not too bad at all. Let's try the other side. Now, new side, new brain. So go back and just reteach it again. Lean on him a little bit here, then retreat. Lean on him, slowly start your legs away. Now, if he would move now, try your best to keep your weight on them until they do two things. They stop moving their feet and they relax and then retreat. So if I have to, what I'll do if they start moving around, I'll pick up on the lead rope, keep their head bent, and just kind of lean on them at the same time. By keeping their head bent, you'll kind of keep them in a bit of a circle there, which is easier. Okay, jump, jump, jump. Okay, go halfway on first. Check out how it's going to be. That's it. Slide back down again. Jump, jump, jump. Right. So I like to do this before I actually saddle them. Gets them ready for the girth right here. Back cinch, slide off. Run my hand down his butt here, warn him where I'm going to come. He's doing great. Like I said, once you get the fear out of these wild Mustangs, man, they get gentle quick. They get to be like backyard pets real quick. But if you don't get them started right, and you let them get away with some bad stuff, you'll pay for it. Good boy. And this time I'll slide all the way off the back of him. So I didn't do this the first time I got my hands on him, did I? We built up to this exercise. Good boy. That was great. Well, good news is he basically did a textbook human curry comb, okay? Bad news is he didn't make a lot of mistakes. He didn't jump around and act silly, so I didn't have a lot to correct. That's what happens, however, as far as they don't make a lot of mistakes if you prepare them for this. If I would have done this earlier, I'm sure he would have been a little bit more squirrelier and moved around, okay? Not that you can't do it earlier, it just takes a little longer to get it done, okay? What I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to use 2 people to do it, okay? If you don't feel confident to do it by yourself, I'll show you how you can have a helper do it, and I'm also going to show you how to use the bucket to do it as well. Now what I'm going to do, mate, is show you a couple of alternatives to getting on the horse if you can't get on by yourself, or you're not tall enough, or you need a little bit of help. I'm going to use my apprentice here, Megan, to help us out in this situation. Now, one thing that's really good for these wild Mustangs is that they've got to get used to different people interacting with them. You'd be amazed how they're really quiet with the person that works with them every day, and then when a new person comes up, and then they start snorting and carrying on. So the more interaction that Ransom can have now with different people, the better. Okay, Megan, just take a hold of him and use a little bit of approach and retreat there, and just let him smell you a little bit there, because he will notice that you're different to me. Now you can just rub on him there a little bit there, rub on his face. That's it. Get around beside him there a little bit more. Shorten up your lead rope there. That's it. You see how Megan's not facing him with his shoulders there? She's got very passive body language. Okay, it's kind of new, you know, even though he's getting pretty gentle with me, you can tell he's kind of snorting at her just a little bit there. Okay, now get in beside him there, Megan, and start rubbing on him there. Just be real casual about it. Get in nice and close, rub him there. That's it. Get further back now, rub on him. Keep his head tipped towards you a little bit. Always get that head tipped towards you. That means that back end will go away. Plus, it helps soften him up. Rub him under the belly there. That's it. Get nice and close to him. That's it. Get that head bent. Now go around the other side now. That's it. That was one of the hardest things that I had to do in Australia, was when I would start a lot of these wild colts, I'd keep them for say 4 to 6 weeks, and they'd come in like really wild, okay? And then after 4 to 6 weeks, man, I've got them riding good and they're real gentle and they're quiet. Well, what I didn't realize initially is that they were real quiet with me, because they're used to me every day. I was the only person that ever touched them. And then what would happen is the owner would come along, and they'd come to pick their horse up, and the owner would walk up to rub the horse, and the horse would snort at them and back up and run away, and it was kind of embarrassing that it made me look like I hadn't done my job. And then I'd walk straight up to the horse, and he'd just stand there like a quiet mouse and never even move. So what I had to start doing is, about a week before I would send the horses home, especially for the horses that were wild and never had any real training, okay, is about a week before they'd go home, I'd have other people start brushing the horses and grooming them and saddling them and unsaddling them, so that the horse got used to that human beings come in all different shapes and sizes. So by the time the owner would come a week later, the horse would say, "Oh, you're just like Clinton. You know, you don't look like him, but man, I don't need to be frightened of you." And that's how I overcome that particular problem. It wasn't that the horses were being bad. They just weren't used to different people's mannerisms, different people walking up to them. Okay, Megan, let's get on the other side now. So, if you don't have the confidence to do it by yourself, or you're not real tall, here's a couple of things you can do here. I'm going to give Megan a bit of a leg up, okay? So she's going to rub on him, rub your belly button, jump up and down beside him, rub your belly button on him, okay? Then I'm going to get a leg, 1, 2, 3, and she's just going to lay over him a little bit. Now I've got his head here, so let's just say he did something silly. Megan would slide down, Megan, and then I pull his head towards her like that to get 2 eyes, okay? That's all I would do. So I'll grab a leg here, make sure they get comfortable with jumping first, okay? And then halfway up and rub, okay? And now I can kind of move, jump, jump, jump. And then I can move Megan's legs back and forth a little bit to help her here. Now Megan, get all the way on there. That's it, knees together. And I'll just hold him here. That's it. Megan can rub him here. Now again, let's just say he jumped or did something stupid, Megan, slide off quickly. Slide off, and then I pull his head towards like that. He's not, but I'm just trying to simulate in case they jump. Let's do it again. Rub on him there. The more you hug them, the better. 1, 2, 3. That's it. Get on now. Now when they get on, I usually grab them by the back of the pants too, if you're not real confident. That way, if something bad would happen, he'd jump or shy, I can pull him by the back of the pants and just pull him off like that. Okay, do it again. 1, 2, 3. That's it, get all the way on. There, just like that. Okay, he's doing great. You can slide off the back of him, mate. I already did it to him. He's pretty quiet there. Okay, now, if you want to do it by yourself, but you're not tall enough, here's what I recommend. Get yourself an old water bucket, drill a hole in the bottom of it, and get your string off your handy stick and tie a couple of knots in the bottom here, okay? And then just, all you do is use it to step on. Now, the reason I use the string is if the horse moves, instead of having to bend over and pick up the bucket all the time, you can just hold the string. It's kind of a lazy ways of having a mounting block. So you can use this now. Megan, just lift that bucket up and down, get him used to it a little bit, because he's never seen that before as far as like that. See him snorting at that? That's it. Get in closer with it, lift it up and down. Follow him if he moves. Keep bumping it up and down. So he's kind of snorting at that a little bit there, which is very normal. Just desensitize him to it. That's it. Shorten up your lead rope a little bit, get in closer to him. There. That's it. Just keep hopping it up and down. Now retreat and rub him now. He did pretty good. See how she took the bucket away and rubbed him? Now do it again. Get it in closer to him where you'd normally be. Stay up by his shoulder though. Don't get back near their hind legs. There we go. Okay, righto, bring him back to the center here. And now all you're gonna do, Megan, is you're gonna do it by yourself now, but just use the bucket to step on. Okay, turn him a little bit towards me, about there. So just get the bucket in beside him. Right there. Get your lead rope out behind you. See how it's around his legs there in case he jump forward. Get it all behind you so he doesn't get tangled up if something happened quickly. Righto, so you just put the bucket in whatever position you need to where you could step on. Now keep a hold of the string though. I would keep the string in, say, your left hand. So that way if he moves, you don't have to bend over and pick it up. If you don't think he's gonna move, it's not that important. Okay, so kick it in a little closer, that's it. Okay, get in close to him, rub your belly button on him. Just act like the bucket's not there. You're just using it to help you get a little height there. Okay, now jump on him, jump, 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 and step on. There you go. Now if you want to drop the string, you could drop the string now if you wanted to, okay? That's it. Now hop off again, use the bucket, hop off him. That's it. There. Now if he moved off, you could just pick up the string and get back in position again. You don't have to use the string, it's just a lazy means of doing it, but it's something else to get him desensitized to. Okay? Now, one thing I'm going to do here, I kind of caught myself doing it here, is make sure you always get on the same side as somebody's on with a colt, okay? Especially when they're wild. Don't have two different people on two different sides, because if he spooks away from me, he'll jump on her or vice versa. Always have both people on the same side. Okay, Megan, use your bucket and jump on him again. Okay. Now Megan doesn't have a belt on. It's important to make sure that if you do have a belt that it doesn't have any sharp edges on it. My belt didn't really have any sharp edges, so I left it on. But if you've got a belt that has any sort of sharp edges on it, make sure you take it off so it doesn't scrape them or dig into them when you're laying on them. That's it. Jump on him now, Megan. So it's great to have a variety of people do the human curry comb. Okay? Great to do this. You can slide off the back of him now, Megan. That's it. Real good there, real good. Excellent. Okay, so there's a couple little tips for you. There you go, mate, good job. There's a couple things you can do to help yourself out there if you're a little bit short or the horse is too big or, you know, you're not quite as athletic as you used to be. That's how you can still get the same thing done, mate. We're ready now to actually saddle Ransom now. Now, what I'd like to do with the saddle is, before I introduce the saddle to him, I'd like to have the colts get a little bit investigative about it and curious and smell the saddle. So what I usually do is I'll just put it on the fence, and because we've already done the sending exercise, send him between me and the fence, okay? See how he's looking at it there? And just let him kind of wander up to it, investigate it just a little bit. If he doesn't, I'll send him past it. So anytime your horse is scared of something, always send him between you and the object. And the trick is, anytime he wants to smell it, there, you let him. You can do it on the fence, you can put the saddle on the ground. I'll do both, really. They actually get pretty smart about it where they realize, there we go. There, I like him looking at that there. They get pretty smart about realizing that if they get near that saddle, they get to have a little rest. See what he does here. He's got it there, good boy. You see how he found the answer? That's the boy. Ah, I like that. Let them do their own little safety check on it. Let them smell it, lick it, bite it a little bit. I always use a real old saddle when I saddle them the first few times. That way if they roll on it or run it into the fence, you know, I don't really care. Good boy. Some horses are going to get very curious about it and some won't care less, okay? I like to have it on the fence initially because it's up a little higher. Let's see what he does here. See if he'll yield his hindquarters away from that pressure. He's fighting a little bit. There we go. Ah. That's great. I love him getting close to it there. Okay, so no major problems there, but let's just say he was real frightened of it. Like sometimes on tour, I'll get people walking up to me and they'll say, Clinton, I can't even get the saddle anywhere near my horse without my horse getting upset and acting crazy. Well, send him between you and the saddle. Get him comfortable around the saddle. Don't try to put it on him. And so if he was really wild about this, I just keep sending him back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, using the sending exercise until he used the thinking side of his brain. Remember, anytime your horse is scared of something on the ground, okay, use the sending exercise to get rid of that fear. Send them between you and the scary object over and over and over and over and over and over until they just come through nice and calm. I love, see how I'm scratching it there? I love that he's scratching that there. We'll move him on, let's put it on the ground. Okay, if your horse will scratch on it and rub on it, that obviously means that they're not real worried about it. That's a great sign. Okay. So then I'll take it out to the center. When you change the angle of it, it can look a little different again too. So I usually put it out in the center here, and I'll do the same thing. Send the horse between me and the saddle. There we go. Let's see what he does here. Ah, there we go. Let him see it, smell it. So if you can't even get your horse near the saddle, you wouldn't even think about trying to saddle him. But see, we've got decent control of his feet, not great, but decent, to where we can move him around. If he is really shying away from it, come off that pressure here. There. I'm going to use the saddle like it's a fence. There. And then yield. And then point. And then yield. Point. And then yield. Point. And then yield. Ah. I love that. This is all real good here. Let him check it out. Okay, mate, I think he's good enough with this now. We can start to move forward from this point on. Always saddle your colts in the center of the round pen, okay? Don't saddle them next to the fence. Don't saddle them tied up. You know, be very aware the first time you saddle them that you're not in a claustrophobic place to where you could get injured, okay? Because when you first saddle them for the first time, you don't know really how they're going to react. Like even if it's a quiet domesticated colt, I've seen some really quiet horses that look like kids' ponies, and you put that saddle on them for the first time, man, they can come unglued in a hurry. Some won't even blink an eyelid. I've had others that were really kind of a little bit wild and skittish and spooky, and you might think, man, this thing's really going to buck, and they don't even move. It's really no rhyme or reason. Some of them are, some of them aren't. 50% are going to buck like crazy. The other half are couldn't care less, okay? There's one little extra step that I want to do before I actually saddle him is I want to get him used to a little bit of pressure around his belly here. So I'll throw the rope over his back and get him used to feeling some pressure around his girth area. I'm going to pull it up tight now. Now release it. Pull it up tight and then release it. And I'll move it back and forth like this. Notice I keep his head tipped towards me. I'm extremely conscious about never saddling a colt until I've got him flexing good enough that I can bend that head towards me. Because when you're down here doing up the cinches, okay, you're in a very vulnerable position here with their back leg. So if they go to kick at you or buck or do something silly, if you let that head get turned away, they're going to kick you in the face. Get that head tipped towards you. But if you haven't taught them how to flex, when you bend their head, they're going to move their feet. So I want to make sure that when I bend their head, I can bend their head without them moving their feet. So seesaw, see a little resistance there? Seesaw it back and forth, pull it up tight, retreat. Now let's just say I pulled it up tight and he got trapped and claustrophobic and moved. I'd let him move around, like, well, actually kind of what he's doing now. Now watch. I'm going to hold it here, I'm pulling tight, I'm holding it, and as soon as he stood still and relaxed, I'd retreat that pressure. See, he thinks by maybe moving around that I'll loosen up the rope. I'm not going to loosen up the rope until he stops moving his feet. Because his head's tipped towards me, his butt's going away, so I'm not worried about him kicking me. So I'm just holding it tight here. When I say tight, it's just pressure. By doing this little step first, I'm hopefully going to avoid him wanting to move around when I put the saddle on and get the girth done up. Hold it. If I have to, I might even put a little bit more bend in him to keep his feet still, like that. Now, as soon as he kept his feet still, retreat. Now, approach, retreat. Approach and retreat. Move it back where the back cinch is going to go. Approach and retreat. See, I've got his head bent in case they kick at you. Move it back and forth. So people would say, Clinton, my horse is really cinchy when I go to do the girth up. Go and do this desensitizing with them in between. Okay, do this desensitizing with them in between your sensitizing exercises. There, approach and retreat. Approach and retreat. Good boy. See, he's passed that test pretty good there. Rightio. From this point forward, I want to be in the center of the pen as much as possible. When I pull the saddle pad out, something new, approach and retreat. Let him smell it, then retreat. Let him smell it, then retreat. It doesn't really matter what side you go up to first. I'm going to just use a little bit of approach and retreat here, desensitize the air, and throw it over his back. Now, if he went to move around when I throw this pad at him, what would I do? I just keep throwing at him with rhythm. I keep his head tipped towards me until he kept his feet still and relaxed, and then I'd retreat. He's not moving around because, we've already done so much homework and doing the groundwork and desensitizing and the human curry comb that he's not real worried about it, which is great. You notice that I'm kind of throwing it at him like he's some 10-year-old kid's pony, okay? You don't want to do this. It's all right, and sneak up to them and sneak it on them, because then you're acting like a predator. Just act, even if they're kind of scared, just act like they shouldn't be. Like he's jumping away now when I throw it at him. I kind of look over the fence. I always watch what they're doing out the corner of my eye, but I just kind of act like they shouldn't be reacting to this, okay? And they're the quietest horse in the world. And when you just act like that, they just get better about it. Get that head tipped towards you. Whatever we do on one side, let's move that front end, please. Do it on the other. Don't move around on me. Like then, he was just kind of pushing into my space, okay? So again, use a little approach and retreat here. Stay up 45-degree angle to his shoulder. Good news is he's not moving around. Bad news is it's hard for me to show you corrections if he's not, but if you've done your homework right, you're going to hear me say this a lot from this point forward. If you've done your homework right, there shouldn't be a lot of trouble in saddling them. That's why I don't try and saddle them in the first day or two if they're wild, because I want a little bit better control of them. Okay, I'm not saying you can't saddle. I'm just saying that the longer you leave the saddling process till you get better control of the feet, the less trouble you have. Move it back and forth, okay? I might bend his head and flop it up and down here a little bit. Always get that. If they won't stand there with that head flexed, with the saddle pad, don't even think about the saddle. Now the saddle. I like to saddle them with a saddle with a back cinch. If you saddle them for the first few times with a saddle that only has a front cinch, you'll be fooled into thinking they're good with a back cinch. And if you ever saddle them with a saddle with a back cinch or flank girth, you'd be amazed how they'll go off with it and start bucking. So I like to break them in with a saddle with 2 cinches, front cinch, back cinch, get them used to that. Then 10 years later, if you ever saddle them again with a saddle with a back cinch, they probably won't react to it. I always saddle them for the first time from the off side. Okay, so that I can let down all my girths and everything from that side. So I do a little approach and retreat with the saddle. Okay, and then I might just kind of move the saddle up and down. I might grab the lead rope in case you go to turn and kick or do something. And I'll just kind of flop it up and down here a little bit, flop it over him and retreat. And then put it all the way on. Now, if he would move around, again, I would keep following him, use an approach and retreat. So from this point forward, what I want to do is be very conscious about keeping his head bent towards me. Be conscious about him staying up near his shoulder initially. I want to move both cinches around so he gets used to that under his belly. Keep his head bent. I might move the saddle just a little bit here. Make sure he's comfortable. Now, I saddle him from this side so that I can let all this down from this one side, and I only have to let go of the saddle once to change sides. So when I let go of the saddle to get on the other side now, I'm in a vulnerable position that if he would jump away from the saddle or flinch or do something silly, he might jump and the saddle would come off him, and I don't want that. I never want the saddle to fall off on the ground or the horse to buck it off. It's extremely important the first saddling go well. In fact, about the first 5 saddlings need to go really well. If you get into a wreck the first couple times you saddle them, you can fix it. What do I mean by a wreck? Oh, I mean, I've seen everything over the years. You know, the saddle goes underneath the horse's belly and he bucks it off. You put the saddle on their back and they kick it off, or they rear up, or it falls on the ground. Then you've created something they have to go back and fix. I'd rather not have to create anything, okay? So, I'm gonna let it go now and change sides. I only want to have to let it go once. Now I've got to pull my ladder go through here, kind of got under the saddle there. So I'm going to pull this through right now, but keep his head bent towards you. Rightio, move it around a little bit. But if he went to move, I'd keep my hand on the saddle and keep his head bent. And if they go to move, you can usually bend their head a little tighter and it puts them in a bind, and then when they stand still, let their head go out a little bit straighter, like at a 45-degree angle, okay? So at this point, I don't like to mess around a lot. I like to get in there, get the job done, okay? Because you're in a vulnerable position here until that girth's done up. So I'm gonna pick up the front cinch, pull it up and back, up and back. Notice I got his head tipped towards me. No reaction there. I'm not committed yet. I'm taking the ladder go through my cinch. I'm still not committed. Pull it up, retreat. Pull it up, retreat. I put the stirrup over the horn to keep it out of the road, approach and retreat. Okay, I'm not committed yet. I just want to see how he's reacting. Okay, now I'm going to take it around a full wrap. Now I am committed. So it's important at this stage that I get it done up relatively quickly and smoothly. Wait, okay. Smooth and quick. Because I'm in a vulnerable position here. The saddle's not quite done up enough. If he went off bucking now, he could probably buck this off. Okay, so I want to get it done up. Now I want to do it up smooth and snug. Not so tight, but he's going to buck it off. I start bucking when I'm standing beside him because I've tightened it up so much to make him feel uncomfortable. Not loose enough that if he did buck. Now I'm going to rub him here, stay up, let him know you're coming. Don't ever just reach under there and grab it. Always let him know you're coming. Now, he kind of went to bite me there a little bit, so I might elbow him there, but I don't want to get after him too much because I'm in this vulnerable position right now. Now I like to get that back stitch done up just snug. Now I'm going to take this off saddle horn. Now I'm going to step back because at this point he could be like a nuclear weapon and go off, or he might just stand around there and do nothing. Now, notice that my stick was out in front of me here. So when I got him done up, I backed away from him and I picked up my stick. I always knew where it was because I'm going to move his feet around now. What I don't want to do is turn my back to him and do this. Where is my stick? Because if these things go off, they go off in a hurry. And usually when they start bucking, often horses will buck and they'll run towards you because they're looking to you for safety. They're panicking and they're wanting you to save them. You've never lived until you've run around a round pen having a horse bucking and chasing you at the same time, okay? So it's conscious that he's not trying to be bad, they're just frightened. And they know that coming to you has been a good thing in the past, you've never hurt them. So they're looking to you to climb into your top pocket so you can help them. So that's why I want to keep him away like he's got the plague. Until I know how he's going to react, he's got the plague and I want to keep away from him. So I always get my stick out in front. You don't want to have the stick under their belly or behind them or any of those areas where you're in a vulnerable position. So I try to get the saddle done up as quickly as I can. I get as smoothly as I can, because if you kind of mess around too much when you're saddling them up for the first time, then they start moving around and getting antsy, and then you have to fix that. It's hard to explain in words, but I used to do that a lot. Like when I was first learning this, when I worked for Gordon, I would be messing around and I'd take forever to get the girth done up, and then they'd start getting fidgety and start moving around. Where Gordon would just say, just get in there and get it done and get out. And when I started doing that, I noticed that they'd start standing there a lot quieter right from the beginning, okay? So, if he goes to buck, that's okay with me, meaning that I'm not going to try and stop him. They get one free pass. So if they want to buck the first time I saddle them, I want them to buck as hard as they possibly can and let them try to get rid of the saddle. But of course, hopefully they can't get rid of the saddle. That's why you want to do it up snug enough. Tight enough that if they buck, it's not going to come off, but not so tight that they start bucking when you're standing beside them, okay? So now when I go to move him off, I'm going to try to yield his hindquarters first and get him disengaging a little bit. Sometimes you can talk them out of bucking if you just go about it the right way and yield their hindquarters around. That doesn't always work, of course, but I always try that option first, okay? So I'm going to go in here. He doesn't quite realize he's got it on just yet, and he will at some point. So I'm going to see if I can yield his hindquarters. There we go. So if I can just yield their hindquarters a little bit, okay, I might come back to this side, yield his hindquarters a little bit here. There we go. Okay, not too bad. Now let's move him off and see what he does here. Well, everybody sighs, that was disappointing. So he didn't really do much at all, did he? Which is good, but bad in the fact that everybody always likes to see a horse bucking. But he may when we break him into a canter. Sometimes they need a couple of minutes to figure out what's on their back and then they go off, but most of the time they go off when you first start moving them around. Let's see if he'll canter. Point, cluck. Good boy. That's the boy. Get those feet moving. Very important to get them cantering. First time I saddle them. It's that canter where they've got to get used to that saddle banging against their belly. Get those feet unlocked. Now I'm going to yield. He didn't yield very well, did he? Yield. Point. That's a boy. Now I'm going to yield and tighten that cinch up, both of them. Yield. 2 eyes. Okay, 2 eyes, please. Now, got to be a little cautious here, even though he was good with the saddle, you never know. Approach him from a 45-degree angle. Keep his head bent. And I'm going to do this cinch up a little tighter here. Pretty tight the second time. Okay. But I want to make sure, I'll see if there's any holes in this other side. No, there's not, okay. In a perfect world, I would like this back cinch to be a little bit tighter. See how it's hanging off him a couple inches? I like to have it tight enough where it's touching him there. So probably I'll put a hole in this off camera so it's a little tighter there. I want it touching him so that they can feel it there. I don't like it hanging down 4 or 5 inches to where they can't feel it, and then all of a sudden they can feel it, and then they start bucking with it. Then they don't feel it again, then they feel it and start bucking again. Okay. So the fact that he didn't buck is great, but if he would have bucked or got silly, it wouldn't have bothered me as far as him being a bad horse or, you know, he's the problem horse. It's just they gotta let that out of their system if they want to do it. Now I only let him buck that first time. That's a free token. From the second saddling onwards, I never let them buck. If they start bucking from the second saddling onwards, I'll go ahead and quickly yield their hindquarters. I'll send them off. I'll change direction, step out in front. I'll step out in front. I'll step out in front. It's hard for him to buck when I keep redirecting his feet. And then when he stops bucking, I'll let him be on the circle. But if you let him get in a habit of every time you saddle them, they get to bucking, that's what happens. Horses get good at whatever they practice. So if you let them practice bucking, usually they get better at it. So the first time I saddle them, it's their only free choice, free time at doing it. After that, I redirect their feet and discourage them from wanting to buck. He's doing great. So I tell you what I want to do now. I want to yield. 2 eyes, please. Yield. There. Be particular about 2 eyes, not 1.5. I'm going to check that girth one more time. And then what I want to do with him is turn him out in the arena and just let him wear it all day. Okay? That's a boy. Okay? And let him go ahead and wear that saddle all day. It's very, very important to make sure, back him up a little bit there, that they get to spend enough quality hours wearing the saddle, okay? I don't like to have him just in the round pen because they can't move around a lot. I'm going to actually turn him out to where he can run around the whole arena, and that's really good because what you'll find will happen is you'll saddle them up and they'll buck a little bit usually, and then they'll settle down, okay? And then you'll turn them out in an arena and they'll walk around, and all of a sudden the back cinch will touch them, or the front cinch will do something, or the stirrup will bang them in the belly, and then they'll go off bucking again. And then they'll buck, and then relax and fall back asleep. And then a lot of them will just stand still. And all of a sudden they'll wake up and they'll do this. And then they'll turn and they'll go, oh my goodness, something's on my back. And then they'll take off bucking again. And then they'll fall asleep. You've got to let them do that enough times to one day, one time when they wake up and look back at the saddle and oh, man, it's just the saddle again. And then they just fall back asleep. As long as they wake up and do this, and then start running, you got to leave that saddle on them. So typically what I tell, my apprentices is when you're saddling a colt for the first time, saddle them first thing in the morning, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, early in the morning. And then you take it off 6 o'clock in the evening. You leave it on them all day. And I want them to roll with the saddle. They'll lay down on the ground, roll with it and rub it on the fence. That's why you use an old saddle that you're not worried about if it gets beat up, okay? And you want them to do all that. You want them to try to get rid of the saddle and fail. When they figure out that they can't get rid of it, that's when you're really in good shape, okay? Now, if I come back at 6 p.m. and he's still wanting to buck with the saddle and be frightened of it, I leave it on all night. I put some hay out there, a bucket of water, and they wear it all night. If I come back at 6 a.m. and they're still bucking with the saddle, it stays on again for another 12 hours. I do not take the saddle off until they act kind of what he is right now. They couldn't care less about it. Most horses with 12 hours wearing the saddle is all you need, and they're really good with it, okay? However, the longest I've ever left a saddle on a colt in the last 18 years doing this has been 2 days. I've left a saddle on a colt in Australia one time for 2 straight days. And then finally after 2 days, he just acted like it was his mane and tail and he just chilled out to it. But I mean, he kicked and squealed and bucked and tried to get rid of it for 2 days straight and then finally just gave it up. So I just let him wear it like a new coat, okay, new mane and tail. The biggest mistake you can make with colt starting is saddling them up for an hour or two and taking it off. Saddle them up, take them off. Because if you even remotely take that saddle off when they're being reactive or spooky or jumpy, in their mind, they're thinking that bucking or bolting is what got rid of it. You don't want them to think that. You want them to think the only way they got rid of that saddle is being on Valium, laying their head down, being quiet, walking around. It's even great if you can turn them loose out in the arena or some area, safer area with another horse where they get to chasing each other around. Or what I'll do at a colt starting clinic is put 15, 20 horses in the round arena, saddled, and then chase them around with another horse, you know, move their feet around, or get on a mule or a gator and move their feet around, okay, and you know, get on an ATV and move them around, but just get them moving. It doesn't work so well if you leave the saddle on in a small little area, because it's the moving around and the stirrups flapping on them and the wind blowing the tail up between their butt cheeks and all that kind of stuff is what gets them broke. You'll find they'll stand there real relaxed, and all of a sudden, for no reason, they'll take off and they'll fart and they'll kick and they'll buck and then 5 minutes later they're docile again. Then they'll wake up and take off bucking again. That's why the arena you turn them loose on, make sure the fence is at least 5 feet high. Make sure it's something that is sturdy enough. If they hit it, they're not going to go over it real easy. You know, 5 feet would be minimum, preferably 6 feet. This fence around the outside is 5.5 feet. The round pen is 6 feet. But get them out and get them moving around. If you only have a round pen, you've got to, you know, I'd rather leave him in the round pen with the saddle all day than turn him loose in the pasture with a wire fence or something like that. So I'd rather that than something that he could run through, because when they're bucking and bolting wild, okay, they're very reactive. So they're going to do silly things. They're going to run into the fence occasionally. They're going to try and jump a fence occasionally. So you want something that they're not going to get seriously hurt with, hopefully, okay? But can your horse get hurt at this point? You bet they can. This colt starting can be dangerous at times for the horse and for you. We're going to try everything in our power to make sure he doesn't get hurt, but we can't control every situation. We can just put our horse in the best situation. Typically speaking, I like to take the halter and lead rope off them when I turn them loose. I'm not a big fan of leaving halters on horses unattended. However, if you think you're going to have trouble catching him or whatever, or you can't get him back in the round pen, you might want to go ahead and leave the halter, just unsnap the lead rope and leave the halter on. Have I ever turned him loose before with the lead rope too? Sure I have. You can do that, especially in an arena like this where there's nothing they can really get it hung up around. And if you've got a horse that's spooky about the lead rope on the ground, let them drag this thing around a little bit and get them used to it. Okay, or if you leave them in the round pen overnight, leave it on the ground and let them drag it around all night, and by the end of the morning they just docile to it. Okay, so good and bad news. Good news is he was quiet as a mouse. Bad news is everybody wants a bit of a show. Okay, so he didn't buck and rear and do all the crazy stuff, and again, some of them will, some of them won't. Even if I did my job right and he bucked, it wouldn't have been a failure. It would have been a failure if I would have had trouble getting the saddle on, he moved around a bunch, he bucked the saddle off, all those type of things, okay? So before I walk up to him again, I'm gonna move his feet, okay? And then approach him. Just be aware that they will fall asleep and forget they're wearing the saddle, okay? And that's when they wake up and they'll buck blindly, okay? So we're gonna turn him out here and let him walk around the arena and just kind of get used to the saddle for a few hours, and then we'll come back and unsaddle him. Now that we've let Ransom wear the saddle all day, it's time now to take it off. We've taken down the round pen, and from now on, we're just going to work with him out in the open until we actually go to ride him for the first time. So let's see how we can go about catching him here in a bigger area. This will be a good little test for him. First thing I'm not going to do is walk straight up to him, because that'd be acting like a predator. I might walk back and forth like this, you know, just kind of act real casual about it. If he comes up beside there, if he looks at me, turn around and walk away, okay? I might go into his hindquarters, there, looks at me, walk away. No differently to what I would in a round pen, except now it's just a bigger round pen and it's rectangle. If at any point he goes to walk towards me like that, walk away. if I lost him here. There we go, he came back. Catch his eye. There. That's a boy. That's really good there. Passive body language is very important. I like that. Walk away when he steps forward. Encourage that by walking away. Remember, the more you're looking for a horse, anybody seen a Mustang looking for a horse, the more you act like you're looking for a horse, the more they try to offer themselves. Hey, pick me. This is quite a big change for him just a few days ago, isn't it? From being completely wild to walking around out here in a big arena. Rub him here. That's a boy. And then retreat. And rub him. That's a boy. Get my halter out here. That's it. Get around the side of him a little bit more here. Take it up over his head. That's really good. The fact that he let me catch him out here is a great sign that he's trusting me and using the thinking side of his brain. I'm just going to bring him over here a little bit closer. If he doesn't lead real good, try driving him to where I want to go. Okay? Remember, drive them. If they don't want to lead, drive their feet. That's a boy. So this would be a good opportunity to just play around with his feet anyway. Move your feet. See, he doesn't have the fence now to rely on in doing the groundwork. So this will be the real truth, how broke he is when he can do the groundwork outside. Yield. There we go, yield. Good boy. Okay, I'm going to rub on him a little bit here. Okay. So before I take the saddle off, I like to do a little bit of desensitizing here. You know, just flap the stirrups here on this side a little bit. This is kind of new for him. Even though they've been banging around on him when he's been out here all day, it's not as quite as much as this. Okay. Little approach and retreat here. Flap him on his side. That's it. Get in a little closer here, flex his head, rub his butt here. Okay. I like to do a lot, making sure he's used to this back cinch touching him. It's kind of sucked his belly up all day, which It's pretty common. Okay. Keep their head tipped towards you when you're flapping them here. In case they go to kick, you get that hindquarters away. Excellent. That's it. Lots of rubbing. Wait. Get him to flex a little better here. You can't get him to flex too much. Change sides. Okay. Same thing on this side. There we go. I always stand back just a little bit the first few times you start flapping it, just in case they overreact to it. Get their head tipped towards you a little bit. That's a boy. Get that head tipped towards you. Lots of flapping. That's why I like them to move around a lot, so they get used to all that. Rub them back here. Keep their head flexed. That's a boy. Okay. Stay up here by your shoulder the first time I pick up on that back cinch in case you're kicking it. Good boy. If he moves around when you flap it, you just keep flapping it till they stand still and relax. That's a boy. Righto. Now I'm going to unsaddle him now. And he's had enough for the day. Good boy. Okay. Do this back cinch. Keep the head bent towards you. Do the front cinch. Got his head tipped. I want to undo this kind of smooth and quick. There we go. Okay. I want to change sides. That's a boy. Get that rope out behind you. Get his head bent. Put my cinches up, and I'm going to pull it off just in one clean motion, like that. And I pull it up towards his shoulder. Okay, not towards his butt. Good boy. He's done great. That's a boy. I always like to finish them by flexing them, desensitizing them. You can't ever flex them too much. Under his belly here. Good boy. Little stiffness here. There, he softened up. There, he softened. When you feel that resistance, hold it until they give. Good boy. Rightio, he's at a point now where I'm just going to turn him loose in a pen just like I would my other horses. And he's pretty much a domesticated colt from this point on. You know, I just don't treat him really any differently. And we're going to go back to the round pen once we're ready for that first ride. But the majority of our groundwork from this point till we was ready to ride is going to be outside to where I can get full control of his feet. So I couldn't be more happier than what I am for his. This is his 4th session. Okay, it's the first day he was saddled and first day with the human curry comb, and he's doing great. So he's well on his way to being a productive citizen. Welcome back, mate. Today is day number 5 with our Mustang Ransom. And today, before we go ahead and saddle him for the second time, I want to do a new exercise with him, and it's what we call circle driving. This circle driving exercise will get him yielding his hindquarters much better. It'll get him arcing around me on the circle. It'll get him giving to the halter better. Basically, the circle driving exercises really help horses that are always trying to get away from you and run away from you because they're scared. And it also helps horses that are very pushy and dominant and always trying to run into your personal space as well. Okay, so if you remember from your arena mates from fundamentals kit, you would remember this exercise and that as well. Now, to begin with, I'm going to be taking the string off my stick and I'll tie it around the horse's neck. This will kind of help reference a drive line and a place for me to be aware of, okay, and for you to be aware of. Okay, once you get good at the exercise, you don't necessarily have to take the string off, but initially I recommend that you do. Okay, now we're not going to show you exercises with Ransom that he's already done before, okay? If we've already done the exercise before, we mainly want to film things that are new or I haven't done to him before so you can see the first reaction. Like, I've already done a little bit of the lunging for respect stage 1 and 2, done some of the sending exercise, okay, did a little bit of flexing and so forth. So there's no point us just going over the same exercises on camera every single day, but I want you to be aware that I personally am doing them every day because I want to get these exercises better so that we can get him more respectful and using the thinking side of his brain, okay? So, to begin with, I'm going to point up high. Now, any pressure that I apply behind the string is going to encourage him to go forward. Any pressure in front of the string is going to encourage him to stop and turn, okay, or slow down. So point, ask him to go forward. If he doesn't, tap with the stick, okay? But what I want to be able to do is rest this stick right where that string is on his withers. Point, that's it. Now, initially, he's going to be a little apprehensive about being so close to me in a circle. Usually when I'm lunging him, he's a little bit further away, okay? So I may just have to get him to walk initially to get the hang of the exercise. Point. But it's very, very important to ask with the halter, tap, 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 tell him with the stick. Ask with the halter, tap, 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 tell him with the stick. Until eventually we don't ever have to use the stick, we just ask him with the halter. Point. Okay, but you've always got to ask with that halter first. It's also very, very important that you keep your belly button as best you can facing away from the horse. Okay, turning it to my left, so to speak. Because look at your belly button like a loaded gun. Wherever you point it, something's going to die. So it'd be much easier for me to just face him like this with my belly button. But what that'll do is drive the horse away from you. So you've got to kind of walk a circle and kind of twist your body at the same time so that you're driving that energy forward. Once the horse is going around, I try to keep my inside hand, the hand with the lead rope, just kind of on my belly button or near it. See, he's kind of pulling on this lead rope here, isn't he? Not a lot of slack in it. That's because he's trying to kind of get away from me and he's stiff. This is why I want to do this exercise, because it's eventually going to get him to circle around me with some slack in the rope and for his head to bend in. They always want their nose tipped into the circle. So step 1 is just get the horse confident, kind of going around you. And he's starting to get that here. I'm kind of walking maybe a 10-foot circle here. Again, anytime he slows down, always point. Ask with that halter first. Now, if he gets too close to me, I can get my stick and tap it on the side of his neck and drive him away. That probably won't be a big issue with him, because he's still got a little fear in him in different areas. But if you've got a domesticated colt that's kind of got pushy and dominant, you certainly will need to get that stick up there and drive that neck away just like that. Now, how hard you have to tap them with the stick will depend on their sensitivity level and how responsive they are. But always start gently. If that doesn't work, increase that pressure until the horse moves his feet. Now I'm going to change direction, so watch what I do. I'm going to turn my belly button and step. And when I say step, I literally try to step on his hindquarters. I imagine that, like, he was beside me like this, and when I turn and step, his hindquarters went from here all the way around to there, okay? So initially I'll break it into steps where I might rub him with the stick. Step 1, take your stick under the rope, okay? Step 2, look up directly in front of your belly button where you want to go. It's very, very important to pick something out across the arena, a post, a board, anything, and focus on it. Step 3, take 3 steps. 1, 2, 3. Step 4 is point with the lead rope. Step 5 is tap with the stick. See him resistance here? If he was tied up, what would he be doing? He'd be pulling back, wouldn't he? Okay, tap, 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 there we go. So it's very, very important to teach him that when he feels that pressure behind his pole, to come off that pressure. You got horses that want to pull back a lot when they're tied up. It's because they're feeling trapped and claustrophobic. Now see, even when he's backing up, I'm trying my best to keep my belly button facing away from him. Like see, I want to avoid turning like that and facing him. If I have to, I will, but if he backs up, as long as he doesn't back up too fast, I may just walk backwards and keep applying pressure. So new side, new brain. He's a little bit scared of me on this side. See, I've never had him go around me this close to me before. So we don't do this exercise early on with a wild colt because, well, first of all, it's too hard to get him to do a circle this tight. And you don't really want to be this close to him in case they go to kick you or do something silly. You want to be away from them enough to where they're not going to get you. So that's why we do the lunging for respect stage 1 and 2 first, before this. So I just want to get him confidently circling around me. You don't have to have an arena to do this. You can do it in the bar, you know, around the barn, in the pasture. You don't have to have a fancy facility. Out in the middle of a paddock. Now watch, I'm going to turn my belly button and step. So his hindquarters went from there all the way over. Now if he was lazy just then and didn't really want to give me a good yield, I would have came across and went whack, and whacked that butt and gave him a little bit of a karate chop. Okay, no different to what I did when we were doing the sending exercise. When I'd look at that butt, if he wouldn't give me 2 eyes, I'd use the stick. Step 1, stick under the rope. Step 2, look up in front of your belly button. Step 3, take 3 steps. Step 4, point, nothing's happening. Step 5, tap. And step 6, it would be whack if necessary if he doesn't get up there. Now when I'm teaching this to people, I usually make them break it down into steps when changing directions and slow the whole thing down. Before you start in a colt, preferably you've already reviewed my fundamental series and you're reasonably confident with that. So me personally, what I suppose I'm trying to say is I'm not going to stop and pause at home when I'm teaching this in between direction changes. Okay? I'm just going to make it try to move in a one flowing movement. A little stiffness here. He's a lot stiffer on this left side, wasn't he, than the right. Point, there we go. Now I like that. That time he thought about stopping, and as soon as I pointed, he moved his feet again. Okay. Turn and step. Change, walk, point. Come on, come on. Good boy. Okay. So I want it to kind of flow. Initially it doesn't. They want to stop and kind of back up and run away from you and be resistant. But once you just keep practicing it, point, stick, 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 point. There we go. And correct him, just like that there. Because we've got control of his front end, we've got control of his back end, it's not that hard to make these corrections. Keep that belly button facing away. So usually in the beginning I'll go maybe 4 or 5 circles in between turns, and that's almost like the reward where I just kind of let them settle. But once they get the hang of the circle and they're better about it, then I do like to do lots of changes, because it's the changes of direction that'll get the horse respecting you more and using the thinking side of his brain. Especially a horse that wants to pull on that halter, getting that hindquarters to yield. Ready, turn and yield. We'll get them to not pull on the halter. That's it. So from here, I'm just going to start to do a lot more changes of direction. If he gets too close, tap him away. You want about 3 inches of the stick over the other side of the horse's mane, ideally. If you can't touch the horse with the stick, he's too far away from you. If you've got more than 3 inches, he's probably a little close, so you can tap him away on the side of his neck. Turn, yield. Point. Now with him being a little bit scared, I don't mind if he gets a little bit closer to me than what I'd normally want. Just in the beginning, I'd rather that than him trying to run away. You notice he's starting to get a little slack in the rope? Notice the rope's not quite as tight, the halter rope, as what it was when I first got started. That's what I'm talking about. He's starting to get a little bit of confidence now, but I'm not trying to get him. But always rest that stick on there with us. Ready? Turn your belly button and step. Change, point, come up here, come up here. Good boy. Little less resistance on that one. I love the circle driving exercise. I do a ton of this with all of my horses. I like to do it with weanlings, yearlings, older horses, problem horses, because what I like about it, it's pretty low stress on you and the horse. Like, it's not like you're running around and get ragged tired quickly, and neither do they, but it just gets a lot accomplished. Those horses that are always trying to pull away from you, it gets them off that halter. Those horses that are always trying to run over the top of you, it keeps them on the outside of your personal hula hoop space. It gets the horses really good at yielding their hindquarters. See how much you practice it? Point, point, tap, tap. There we go. So it's just a great exercise to do for all horses that are spooky and jumpy and horses that are dull and pushy and disrespectful. Now later on, you'll see that we'll do this exercise from a distance, especially in the intermediate series, okay? But we don't add the distance until they're good up close. Turn, yield. I want his first reaction when I turn and yield not to be to run forward. Especially on this side, he's still got a little bit of fear there that when I turn towards his butt, his first reaction is to run forward, where I'd like it to be, give me two eyes. Now what you'll notice as you practice this, he's starting to do it a little bit on this left, not a lot, is you'll notice the nose will come in and they'll start to arc around you a little bit on the circle. Their shoulder will go out a little bit, their nose will be in, okay? That just kind of naturally develops. Turn, yield, that was better. Point. Now I like that. That was one of the first times when I pointed and he just came up off that pressure without the stick. That's good. That's him listening to that halter more. Ask him with the halter, tell him with the stick. But they'll never come off the halter if you always ask them with the stick. What do I mean by that? Watch this. If you always use the stick to make them go, they'll never learn just to come off the halter. I try to, as best I can, I'm not saying I'm always doing it, but as best I can, I try to always point first for a second before I use the stick. So it's like I'm always asking him first. Now I love that little bit of slack he's starting to develop in this rope. That's a good little sign, but he's starting to relax and not get worried. Turn, yield, point. See, I'm asking. There we go. Good boy. Love that. He's licking his lips. So for his first lesson of this exercise, he's doing quite well. Now keep in mind, every exercise we do is nothing more than a combination of what? Yield the hindquarters, yield the forequarters, and back up. So the better those three primary exercises are, the better shape you're going to be in. Yield, change, point, nothing's happening, tap. And as he starts to get a little better, I can actually go and rub him with the stick a little bit as he's going around. This is real good for him, get him used to that saddle. Just rub from their ears back to their tail. Doesn't hurt them to do a little bit of this. Turn, yield, point. Wanting that nose in, shoulder out, rib out, hip in, arced around that circle. Most horses want to go around the circle with their nose to the outside, their shoulder to the inside, and their butt to the outside. Point, see here? He's not coming, so now I've got to help him with the stick. But I asked him with that halter first. Go around till it gets smooth. Yield. You know you're starting to get it working really well when you can change directions without any resistance. See, there's still resistance here, isn't there? He's still stopping and starting and fussing a little bit. When you get rid of that, consistently that is, you know you're gonna start to do well. I like that, that was better. So you'll notice I'm doing a few more changes of direction. I may not go around 4 or 5 circles now, I might just go around once, okay? And then yield, point. It's these changes of direction that'll get him broke. If he's too close, he's a little close here, so I'll tap that shoulder away. Most people make a mistake and they tap the horse on top of the neck to make him go away. You've got to tap them actually on the side of their body, on the side of their neck. Turn, yield, walk, point, tap. Today's a real windy day. And you know what, when the weatherman says it's going to be a cold, rainy, windy day, he might as well say, if you've got a horse, get ready to get bucked off. Horses usually are more reactive on windy days. They're hearing things from further distances away, seeing things fly through the air. The leaves are going, the branches are moving, plastic bags are flying around. So on days that it's very cold or windy, you better make sure you do an extra groundwork in your preparation. Ask. Now that was better. See what happened then? He kind of got stuck there, didn't he? And then when I pointed, he came off at halter pressure. I almost used a stick, but I didn't. So the fact that he made a mistake and then kind of corrected himself, that's all right. This is just one of those things that you just got to do over and over. If I notice that he's getting lazy with his hindquarters, I'm going to go and correct him, and I'll show you that in a second. Get a little bit more severe with my stick and reprimand his butt for not giving me 2 eyes. Like if I turn and it's not moving, I'll whack it like that and say, hey, come on, got to get that butt moving. When they yield their hindquarters well, they won't pull on the halter. When they stiffen their hindquarters, guarantee you they're going to pull on that halter. Turn, yield that hindquarters. Now eventually it'll just be a look, okay? You'll just look at that hindquarters. All the liberty that I do with Mindy and Diaz, where the horses run beside me without the halter and lead rope and they circle around me and side past away and to me, all that starts here. I'm showing you right now how you teach that. You get them broke to the halter first. Everything you do offline with liberty, you've got to start with the halter first. Now he's crowding me a little bit, so I'll tap his neck away. You can do this exercise for a good 15, 25 minutes. You know, any time frame in there, and it's not going to hurt the horse, it's not going to hurt you, but man, you'll get a lot done. It's kind of like a low impact exercise that you get a lot accomplished. Turn, yield. Good boy. Excellent. I like that how he's starting to stop on the outside of my hula hoop. If you get a little close, now that we've taught him how to back up, that's a lot better there, isn't it? Good boy. So now I can get him out of my space if he pushes. Good boy. So that's a great effort for his first circle driving exercise, okay? What I'd like to do with him now, of course, is go back and desensitize him. I know I sound like a broken record when I say that. Sensitize, desensitize, sensitize. You've got to balance the two. If you only sensitize, they get jumpy. You notice as soon as I started to desensitize them, what did he do? He cocked his leg, he shook his head, he took a big breath, he's licking his lips now. They get smart about it. They know when you're desensitizing. They're like, woohoo, yes, I get to have a rest. You want them to look forward to it, okay? You want them to look forward to it. That's a boy. Whatever you do on one side, that's it, do it on the other. So even though he's getting quieter all the time, remember, why is he getting quieter? Because we're sensitizing and desensitizing. Sensitizing gets the horse's feet moving forwards, backwards, left and right, which gets him respectful and using the thinking side of his brain. Desensitizing gets the horse to stand still, relax, and be quiet and not be worried about objects that move and what? Make a noise. I've got to start handling his feet here pretty soon, so I better make sure that I can just touch his feet. If you can't touch them with your tools, you're never going to be able to touch them with your hands. The last thing is pitch it away. Okay, that's a boy. Change sides again. Move that front end over. You notice that every time I move it over, then I always what? Rub it to a stop. So, as much as I can, I always make the horse change sides rather than me change sides. I want that front end to step across me rather than me walk around them. They're just little things, but every little time you say, hey, you move your feet, and the horse does, it just reinforces you're number one in the relationship, they're number two. You call the shots. There's got to be a leader in the relationship. Okay? Rightio. Flogging him with kindness. See, a lot of people say, well, Clinton, why do you keep doing this? Even though he's already quiet, he's not worried about the stick. But I guarantee you, if I don't keep doing it, he will get wilder again. Okay? If you only sensitize, good news is when you say move, they'll be, yes, sir, well, get moving. Bad news is they'll get jumpy, spooky, and reactive, okay? If you only desensitize, good news is they'll be nice and quiet and relaxed and safe. Bad news is when you ask them to move, they'll tell you to get lost. I don't want to move. They get cranky and disrespectful and pushy. Okay? See this? There, I like that. He's starting to follow that feel of the halter a lot more. Okay. I can't stress the importance of doing this around their legs. Because before you ever try to pick them up, you've got to make sure that they're comfortable with having you and your tools touch them. Change sides. I'm just going to ask him with the halter. And didn't really move then, did he? Not as good as I want. Drive it away. Rub him to a stop. Now I'm going to start spanking the ground. Every day I want to spank the ground just a little bit harder and try to get him a little bit more relaxed here. He's tolerating this, but nowhere near as good as I'd like him eventually to get. As a good rule of thumb, do 40 spanks on each side before you retreat. So I'll do 4 sets of 10. Watch this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Then I'll retreat and rub him. That's 1 set. And then I'll do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If he stood there relatively relaxed, retreat. Okay, and then you do that 2 more times. And if he stood there relatively still for 40 spanks, then you can go ahead and change sides. I'm going to cheat a little bit now on camera, but anytime I'm working with him off camera, I always do those 40 spanks until they're absolutely bomb-proof. Once they're bomb-proof, then you might just cut it back to 3 sets of 10. And then eventually 2 sets and then just 1 set. That's a boy. Can't stress the importance enough of doing both sides. If you only use the stick to make them go, they'll get jumpy because every time you pull it out, they think that means move. They've got to realize the stick and the rope don't always mean go. Okay, much better. Do it out in front of him. Lots of rubbing on their face, especially if they're wild. Good boy. That's a boy. Okay, let's go and flex him a little bit here. Then I want to jump all over him, do the Jeffries method, and then I want to saddle him. There we go. That's a boy. Lots of rubbing on them, especially under their belly and flank. Get them desensitized to where your legs are going to be, with that back cinch. Remember, this was his stiff side. Look how much lighter he's getting now. Excellent. Move that front end over. Good boy. That's a boy. There we go. See, I love that one. He keeps his head bent like that. That's what I call a nice problem to have. He's trying to help out just a little bit more. That's a boy. But I always flex them 5 times on each side after each time I desensitize. So desensitize them, flex them, then move on to the next exercise. Good boy. Radio. He's pretty good there, so I think what I'll do now is move on to the human curry comb and then we'll saddle him. Good boy, he's doing great. Let's go ahead, mate, and do the human curry comb with Ransom. Basically, I just want to make sure, reinforce that he's not frightened of me or my tools. I like to do this before I saddle him. Step 1, we can move through it a lot quicker today because he's already had this yesterday, but just take your legs away, let him kind of feel that weight, okay, and then retreat. I always like to get that rope out behind me in case they jump forward. I don't want to get them tangled in it or me with them. There, and take those legs away. Let him know that that weight is coming. It's a boy. Jump, 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 jump. Always warn him what's about to happen. Jump, and then jump halfway over him. Jump, jump. That's it. Jump, jump, jump. That's a boy. That's it. That's a boy. Lots of rubbing. Jump, jump, jump. Then I'll have my legs go back and forth. Pre-warn him that it's coming. That's a boy. Jump, jump, jump. That's it. And don't be frightened. Now if he moves like that, just pull his head to his butt, just like that. Okay, and then quickly start again. Okay. Pull his head to his butt. Just like that. And then jump, jump, jump. That's a boy. Pull his head to his butt and get in there again. Jump, jump, jump. That's it. Yep. He doesn't like the leg on top of his butt today, so we'll just fix it. That's it. I'm gonna try my best to stay here. Drive that front end away till that rope untangles. That's a boy. Now, when I jump down, he's a little bit reactive today with the wind, which is not unusual for colts. I might move his feet around, do a little reverse psychology and say, hey, when I'm on top of you, you get to stand still. I'm going to try my best to wait here. Now when he stood still, retreat. Now I drive his front around this way. Okay, drive his front around his rear to compensate that. Instead of him turning into me, see here, he was already thinking about turning. Drive that front end away, like that. That's it. That's better. Good boy. Now, I don't think he's really being that scared. I just think he's kind of messing around with me a little bit today and just seeing what he can do. So I'm gonna, when it moves around like that, whack on him a little bit and say, hey, move those feet away. And then make this look easy. Okay? Make standing here look easy. Make standing here look easy. Jump, jump, jump. There. And then slide off. That time I just got my foot and I shock it towards his head, drive that front end away. That's a boy. If he wants to move around, I'm gonna let that be his wish. Come on, didn't you want to move that butt around? Let's move that butt around. Let's move that forequarters. Let's move that butt around. I'm gonna make moving around seem a little bit more difficult. Let's move that hindquarters around. Let's move that hindquarters around. If you're a little reactive today, let me get that reactiveness out of you. Let's yield that hindquarters. Let's move that hindquarters around. Let's move that forequarters. Move that hindquarters. Come on, let's move these body parts. Come on, let's move it. Come on. You want to move now? You don't want to move so much now. Move that forequarters. Ah, now you're not so keen to move around. Okay, there we go. Make this look easy. Jump, jump, jump. Been drinking all day. Move those legs around. That's it. Might go and move him around again. Sometimes before they make a mistake, I'll go move them around. Make it my idea to move. You'd be amazed how when you start making it your idea to move around, how they don't think it's so much fun. Hindquarters, forequarters. Hindquarters, and then immediately go back to what you were doing. Just gonna wait here. Now if he starts walking out, like he's just pivoting right now, but if he starts actually walking forward in a circle, then I'm gonna slide off and pull his head around. That's a boy. Move that front end away. Try something else. We'll back him up a little bit here. Okay, back him up, back him up, back him up. And try this again. That's a boy. See, standing still is the easiest option. That's a boy. This is far easier. Far easier. And then I'm going to slide off. That's a boy. Jump, jump, jump. That's a boy. So the backup seemed to work, didn't it? We got a little better reaction out of him. Slide off. Run my hand down his butt here. Let him know I'm coming. That's a boy. Rub him here. That's a rubbing. And slowly start pushing your way back. Lots of rubbing around their belly and go. Slide off the side. Let your hand go down their butt. So now standing still looks pretty easy, doesn't it? Compared to moving his feet, backing up, yielding. So I don't necessarily think he was scared. I think he was just messing with me. And once he realized that messing with me is a lot harder option, he gave his union card up again. That's a boy. Made the wrong thing difficult, which is moving around. Made the right thing, which is standing still, look easy. That's a boy. Run that hand down their butt. Boy. That's a boy. We'll try the other side. So, that's kind of interesting. Initially, I thought he was just moving around because he was a little bit scared and a little reactive. But then as time went on, I could tell that it wasn't really him being scared. It was just him messing around, testing me a little bit. So I had to try a variety of things, didn't I, until I found the one that worked, which was I tried yielding his hindquarters, yielding his forequarters, yielding his hindquarters, yielding his forequarters. That worked a little bit. I tried pushing his front around the rear, counterbalancing. He wanted to turn left, I'd turn him right, and do that kind of aggressively. And that didn't seem to work, but the one that did work was backing him up. But did you see my timing? As soon as I started doing those type of techniques, as soon as I would get after him and move his feet. As soon as I'd stop getting after him, I'd immediately jump back on him. It's like, I'm basically saying, listen, if you think me jumping all over you is hard work, try this. And then immediately go back to what you were doing. So option A is stand still, have a cigarette, don't move your feet, relax. Option B is hustle your feet and really move, 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 move. There is no option C, which is stand there with neither one happening. It's either A or B. So it's very, very important to go back to what you were doing in the first place after you correct him. Let's try the other side, see what he's like. New side, new brain. Just kind of rest your body on him here, lean on him, let him get used to that weight. There we go. That's it. Take your legs away. Just handling that pretty good. Jump, 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 jump. Okay. Jump halfway on. See if I have a little different attitude now. That's it. Move his legs back and forth. Let him know they're coming. This is originally what he spooked at, wasn't it? And retreat. That's it. That's it, boy. That's it. Can't stress to you enough the importance of rubbing. That's it. Jump, jump, jump. Slide up the side, let that hand come down. So now he's what he should have been. Started out a little rough, and then he got better, didn't he? That's it. That's it, boy. There we go. So, I'm going to do this to him every day for the next 4 or 5 days. Every day before I saddle him until he's just bomb-proof. I'm actually glad all that happened on camera because you got to see me work and make the right thing easy and the wrong thing difficult. The first couple of things I tried didn't work, did they? And that's normal as far as not everything I do to a horse will work on every single horse exactly the way it did in the last one. So what I do is I'll just keep experimenting until I find exactly what I'm looking for. Like if that wouldn't have worked backing him up, I would have done lunging for respect. Stage 2, stop, turn, stop, turn, stop, turn, stop, turn. And then immediately going back and jumped on him. It doesn't matter what you're doing as long as his feet are hustling, as long as it's hard work, as long as it's not easy for him to do, and then as long as you go back to what you wanted to do, that looked easy, you'll be in good shape, okay? Make the wrong thing difficult, the right thing easy. Heck, if I had to tie 1 foot up and I had to lunge him around on 3 legs, I would have done that and then jumped on him. Whatever it is, I'm going to make moving his feet look like a lot harder option than standing still, not moving his feet. Okay, good boy, so let's go ahead and saddle him now. So now I've brought the saddle out here in the middle of the arena. Before I try to saddle him with it, let's just do the sending exercise again between you and the saddle. Okay, just like what we did before when the saddle was on the fence the first time yesterday and we sent him between us and the saddle. Now the saddle's on the ground a little bit more. Okay, it's just a little test to see if you can control those feet. All those people would say, well, Clinton, you can't even get the saddle near my horse. Well, don't try to get it near him. Get the horse comfortable being around the saddle by you moving his feet. See here? If I can't control his feet around the saddle, what makes me think I'm going to control his feet when he's wearing the saddle? Move your feet. I'm trying to send you between me and the saddle. That's it. Move your feet. That's it. Move your feet. See how now that we're out of the round pen, it's almost like I've lost a little bit of control of his feet in some different areas. That's because he doesn't have that fence to rely on. That's why I said to you, as soon as you can, as soon as you've got enough control of their feet, get out of the round pen so that you can test how good your groundwork is here, okay, outside. Now typically I would not saddle, have a second saddling, I would always saddle them in the round pen first, for probably the first 2 to 5 saddlings, depending on how they do. We were doing some other filming, so we had to take that round pen down. Plus, he did so well the first session that I think I could get away with saddling him out here without too many problems. Now, he may buck the second saddling. I've had that happen before where they didn't buck the first saddle or two, but the third time they did. Same rule applies though. If they buck, I'll just redirect those feet. I'm not going to let them get in the habit of bucking. They can only buck for free the first time you saddle them. So I feel like I have enough control of his feet, but if he went to be bucking and doing something silly out here, I could move his feet around and get control of them. Move those feet. You can't control the horse's feet around the saddle. You're never going to get him to trust the saddle. Just like trailer loading. If you've been to one of our tours, remember, I always tell people, if you can't get control of your horse's feet around the trailer, you're never going to get him in the trailer. I might use the stick to help me reach him in some areas. So that's all I'm doing here. I'm just moving his feet around the saddle. That's all I'm doing. Getting any stickiness out of him here. There we go. Now how close I can get to the saddle will depend on how scared the horse is. If he's really scared, not real close. If he's just a little bit scared, I can get a lot closer. And I like to do it on all different sides of the saddle. You'd be amazed how you change sides and they look at the lambswell on the bottom's different to the front and they'll snort and carry on. Now your domesticated colt that's pretty quiet, he's probably not going to care less. So this part takes very little time. There. Now that I've got some control of his feet, now I don't mind him if he wants to rest at it and smell it. I didn't really want him resting at it before because I felt like he was avoiding going forward by just running near the saddle. This is all just resistance that has to come out of them. You notice I'm just pretty patient and persistent. I just keep doing it until they give it up. I know that by moving his feet, 2 eyes, I'll eventually get his respect and the thinking side. Just like when he was moving around when I was trying to jump on him bareback. I was moving his feet. What got it working was the back up. When I jerked on him a few times and made him back up, that's when he gave up his union card pretty quick. There we go. But it's no different than what I'm doing here. I'm just redirecting those feet. There. Now he's starting to think. Let him smell it there. Okay, good boy. Let's move on. I want to make sure that I can put this rope around his belly and that he's not going to overreact to the girth. Okay. Slide it around, keep his head bent towards you, slide it around, pull it and release it, pull it up tight and release. A lot of people say about cinchie horses, how do you get rid of that on a buck? This is how you do it, approach and retreat. If I pulled it up tight and he moved around, I'd hold it until he relaxed. Okay. I'm just moving him over here so you guys can see a little bit better. Okay. I'm going to pull that up tight, crisscross it, and then release it. Pull it up tight and then release it. Let it slide back near his back cinch here. See how I've got his head tipped towards me? If he went to kick, his back end's going to go away. Pull it up tight, release it. Pull it up tight, release it. Pull it up tight, release it. Oh, that's a boy. Okay. Now we're ready for the saddle.